Hello, everyone, and welcome to our spring interactive webinar with Disclo from Request to Resolution. We're going to be providing some expert insights into workplace accommodations. This will be our first of a real interactive polling kind of discussion happening here. And so we hope that we'll get great participation in the comments, polling, get your phones ready to scan a QR code in a bit. And we hope that this just continues a series of providing expert insight and having interactive discussions on accommodations and other related topics. Before we get started, I want to give a little bit of kind of housekeeping instructions. If you're joining us on LinkedIn or anywhere else, closed captions are available. Just click the CC icon at the bottom of the video window. And we do want to let you know that this is being recorded, and it will be uploaded soon at disclo.com/webinars. So you can watch there. You can subscribe to our newsletter on LinkedIn at the Disclo page or via email to be notified when that's posted as well. So with that, we want to get started. And I'm especially glad to be joined by my colleague, Taylor Gallo, who joined Disclo earlier this year. And Taylor, why don't you give a brief introduction of yourself?
Thanks, Joshua. Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor, Accommodations and Client Support Specialist at Disclo. Just a brief summary of my background. I have nearly a decade of experience in disability services and accommodations in general. Prior to Disclo, I was an accommodation specialist at Meta. And just before that, I worked as an accommodation specialist and a student advisor at the College of Staten Island. I have a master's degree in disability services in higher education and certifications in both adult and youth mental health first aid. And with that, I'm super excited to be here with you all. Thanks so much for joining today.
Thanks, Taylor. And just a little bit more about myself. Those who attend our webinars more frequently may know me. I'm the head of accommodations here at Disclo and Client Experience. I have over 25 years of experience managing HR programs, including health and retirement benefits, leaves, time-away programs, and ADA accommodations. I've managed programs across several companies, as you can see the logos there. Always focusing on building a compliant, relevant HR processes that are a wonderful employee experience. I'm also a trained and practicing peacemaker and mediator. And I like to say that these days I'm not getting a lot of formal mediation practice, but I am mediating lots of conflicts in just life with 4 kids and a big family. That's always fun. So I also want to just mention, as we advertise, that today's program is pre-approved, and Disclo is a pre-approved provider with the HR Certification Institute for the 8 listed certifications here. Watch all the way to the end, and we'll provide the activity ID in the comments on LinkedIn, where you can use that ID to put it into your HRCI account and receive 3/4 of an hour of continuing education credits for the program today. We are also using some interactive features. So if you're not on your phone and you can scan your phone, I guess if you are, you can still scan it and get up on what's called Menti, MENTI.com to get interactive. The link will also be shared in the comments by Sophia from Disclo as well. So we're gonna do a little practice here over on Menti and see how that works. So if you'll get over there now, I'm going to do a question. So which of the following is a key principle of the Americans with Disability Act? Is it equal pay for all employees, providing reasonable accommodations, ensuring job security for all employees, or mandating remote work for disabled employees? Let's see some votes. We'll take, there we go.
We got 1.
Okay, 2. I know that I'm hitting us with a real hard question to start here. All right, come on. We've got a sharp audience this morning, Taylor.
Yeah, right. Great.
Excellent.
Everyone brushed up on their ADA this morning.
Okay. Excellent. I'm going to close the voting there. So 8 out of 8, 100% a key part of the ADA is providing reasonable accommodations. So keep this up. We're going to have a chance to type in some answers on a later scenario and give some more polling when we get into our scenarios here in just a moment. I see in the comments someone mentioned that they're not able to submit an answer. Sorry to hear that. This is on a third-party site, so I'm not sure why. Says response. Oh, I'm sorry. I had just switched off the responses just so that we would have a moment. So I'll try to leave those a little bit open a little bit longer on the next ones. It'll be a little more discussion. That was just a quick one to get everyone up and seeing how things work. So as we move into the content for today, just want to mention a quick heads up. This webinar and any discussion are intended solely for informational purposes, and they represent really our professional experience at Disclo and our knowledge and understanding of interactive process, accommodations, and other subject matters. We are not, Taylor and I, attorneys, and if we were your attorney, if we were attorneys, we wouldn't be your attorney. So this is not intended at all to give any legal advice or counsel or to help you decide any specific scenarios or accommodation cases you may be involved with. Each accommodation case really, as the ADA says in EEOC, needs to have an individualized inquiry. It needs to be specific to that case, the factors of that case, the employee, and the employer. And so for any specific cases you may be involved with, always seek legal advice to make sure that you're in compliance with your company policies and any applicable laws. Today is just discussion and sharing and hopefully a little bit of fun for you. So a little bit more about Disclo if you're not familiar with us. We are really a tech-powered, human-centered workplace accommodations platform. I believe, just from my 25 years of experience, I had never seen anything like Disclo when I learned about it. It is just a low barrier, easy way for employees to be able to request their accommodations, and your internal employer HR representatives or accommodations case managers to be able to do what they need to stay compliant and keep the case file all together. We integrate very easily with your existing HR stack, whether whatever HRIS system you use or applicant tracking system for our Disclo Hire product platform. We integrate in a simple 20 to 30-minute phone call. We're up and running and ready to go. We keep it simple around here. It's 100% digital medical verification, so you don't have to go back and forth, wait for employees to make appointments, to be rescheduled, to be faxed, to be back and forth. We do that online with the providers and keep it real simple. We keep that really structured and simple. We have on-demand expert support. So accommodation specialists like Taylor, like myself, and others, if you as the employer have a question on maybe how to proceed on a case, if you as the employee going through the accommodations process have questions, then we can assist you as well. Great benefits for your company. As you can see here, feedback from one of our wonderful clients. We are creating night and day experiences for companies in the lift of administrative processes, reducing the risk and legal risk, and increasing your defensibility, lowering claims in other places. So if you have an employee who wants to go on and leave or needs an FMLA claim, you might have an accommodation that could keep them at work, and that's better for you, it's better for them. And with having a simple to use and easy to find accommodations process, that's a win-win for your employee experience and more. With that, a little bit of background on just kind of some accommodations and processes before we jump straight into the scenarios today. So give me 1 second. I'm jostling around a couple of different screens here. So for today's purpose and context, we're talking about the definition of a disability under the Americans with Disability Act. There are many similar laws globally, and most have a very similar definition. So for today, you have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more of your major life activities or bodily functions, which was added into an Amendment Act. And those can include thinking, concentrating, interacting with others, bodily functions such as the nervous system, the cardiovascular system, the reproductive system. If those are impaired by a physical or mental condition, then it likely qualifies you for an accommodation. And for today, we're going to focus, it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And our first scenario deals with or handles some sensitivity around a mental health condition. And so if it limits the individual's ability to perform these activities, then they may be covered under the ADA. Protections under the ADA, we'll go through this real fast. Employment, you can't take in consideration someone's disability or disability status in order, when you're thinking about hiring, promoting, those types of things. Public access, you've got to be able to get into public buildings and get around. And then reasonable accommodations, where we'll spend the bulk of our conversation today, which are adjustments or modifications made by an employer or provider to enable an individual with a disability to participate fully and equally to others. Taylor, let's talk a little bit more about mental health conditions.
Great. Thanks, Josh. Awesome opening. Okay, so to set the stage for our topic of discussion today, mental health, as Joshua mentioned, I first would like to express that as someone with diagnosed mental health disorders myself, this truly resonates with me, and I understand really firsthand the significant impacts that mental health can have on daily life and, of course, at work. Fortunately, there are meaningful actions employers can take to address and contend with mental health in the workplace. Laws alone aren't enough to build company culture. Developing and maintaining inclusive values, policies, and resources that are unique to the company shows commitment to employee mental well-being. And with that, let's just cover some statistics. Mental illnesses are among the most common health conditions in the world, with anxiety and depressive disorders being the most common, affecting 970 million people globally in 2019. And among the numerous effects of the pandemic that the pandemic had on the world in 2020, anxiety disorders actually increased by 26% and depressive disorders by 28%. So to get into the definition of mental health conditions and illnesses can affect a person's thinking, feeling, behavior, or mood, deeply impacting day-to-day living, and can also affect one's ability to relate to others. There's a vast amount of information and statistics out there that tell us mental health is a global matter that really needs to be addressed, both with the determination and, of course, grace. Just some additional statistics I just wanted to highlight for you all. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience mental illness each year. The CDC reports that 1 in 25 adults in the United States lives with a serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or major depression. And to touch upon the global impact, the World Health Organization reveals that 1 in every 8 people in the world are living with some type of mental health condition. Reasonably, this affects employers today. And actually, over the last 3 years, employers have seen an increase in accommodation requests. According to a 2024 report from Littler, there was a 74% surge in employee requests for leave or accommodations for mental health related issues just over the past year alone. However, as a result of this massive surge, only 22 of employers said that they have changed their related policies to address this. It's clear that there's a fundamental disconnect here, but that can be discussed for a possible future Disclo Live webinar. So why does all of this matter, and how does it relate to employers today? Well, with the rise in mental health, we are hearing that employers are becoming inundated with accommodation requests and really are unsure how to not only effectively but legally navigate the reasonable accommodation process to ensure that employees and their company are justifiably supported. So before we jump into this, into our next segment of the workshop, Joshua, do you have anything you'd like to add before moving on to the case scenario? Josh, yes.
I see that. Thanks, Taylor. You covered it really well, and pointing out and really covering the importance of taking mental health seriously, both outside of work and inside of work, and employers taking it seriously, how their employees are doing and checking in. And making room for your employees to be themselves at work, making it really less of a stigma to talk about mental health conditions, and to proactively think of ways to improve your workplace and make it better. With this being Mental Health Awareness Month, we are really glad to tackle some of these subjects that are really in the news a lot and getting a lot of attention. And there are strong feelings on both sides of the equations, but let's just get into the scenarios and have some discussion, Taylor.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm really excited to get into our scenario on mental health and return to office, a topic I think we can all agree is prevalent and one that I think we can all relate to some extent. So I'm eager to see how it helps to shape our discussion later on. Okay, so we have Darla, who is an administrative assistant who has been working 100% remote since the pandemic. Darla is also someone with social anxiety and has been relieved to have been working from home the last few years. However, that relief turned into complete uncertainty when her company announced the upcoming implementation of a new return to office policy, with the expectation that employees would be required to work in the office 3 days per week. Darla does not want to go back into the office, so she made a request to her manager, Jason, to continue working from home. Jason expresses his support of the new return to office policy and refers Darla to their HR business partner, Alex, to discuss her accommodation request further. So let's just pause here for a few minutes and talk a little bit about our first question for discussion. So what should Alex consider when evaluating Darla's accommodation request to continue working from home full time? At this time, we encourage you all to please contribute to this discussion by adding your comments and your thoughts on LinkedIn, any insights you may have about the request and how you think the company should handle it.
All right, so let's get some responses from our accommodations and HR specialists out there. In this situation, you've got a return to office mandate requirement of at least 3 days a week. You have someone with a mental health, emotional health condition who is having a difficult time being in office, and they're requesting to continue to work from home full time. After all, they've been doing it for a couple of years during the pandemic. What should Alex, the HR business partner, what should the employer, the company, be considering when evaluating this request? Any comments or thoughts? We'll give a moment. I know there's a bit of a delay from when we speak and when it's shown in the video. So we'll give that a moment.
Yeah.
All right, Beth, what does the medical documentation state? That is definitely something to consider, 100%.
Yes.
Thank you. Erica, assess whether the employee is qualified and has a disability, request medical, and assess. Provide reasonable accommodations unless there's an undue hardship. Great.
Wonderful.
Taylor, you want to take a little bit?
Yes. So how much of Darla's job can be performed remotely? Beth again. Right. So yeah, these are really great things to take into consideration. How does this request enable them to work better, Lisa? Yes, really great insights on what we can, what to really consider here for sure.
Yeah, and then what are Kelsey, what are the limitations Darla's experiencing? How does that impact her ability to do her job in the office? So that's drilling in a little bit more, right? What's the reason behind the request? What are the actual limitations that the employee is experiencing with what they're requesting? And what are limitations again? What's the frequency and duration of limitation? Can Darla perform the essential functions remotely? These are great assessments.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see. Anyone else? Any other discussion? I think that might cover it. Great.
Yeah, great perspective.
All right. So we're going to do a little bit of interactive time here now. So if you'll grab again your phone. Hang on. And navigating multiple windows here. All right. So our next question is, what should a manager do when a request conflicts with company policy? So they're receiving a request here, and everyone should be able to start answering. Should they deny the request immediately? Hey, this doesn't comply with company policy. Sorry, employee, we're done. Should they ignore the policy and approve it because they just feel right about it? Should they consult with HR, or should they just implement the accommodation and just kind of, hey, we're just going to keep this hush hush and keep it to ourselves? We're getting a high number of people thinking that this manager needs to go consult with HR.
Yeah.
Up to 12. 13. All right. 14. And we have one person saying just implement the accommodation. All right. Go ahead. If you want to get a vote in, we'll show the results in just a moment. We're up to 15 for consult HR, 1 implement the accommodation. And the answer is that they should consult with human resources before determining what to do. This is always, and depending on the situation, right? It could be consult with human resources, and then the decision is consult with employee relations or consult with your internal legal counsel if you have that, or an external employment law attorney if you have outside counsel that you can rely on and trust. But really, it's always a good idea to consult with HR before moving forward. All right, so let's go back to our scenario and see what's happening with Darla's employer and what their process is. Taylor?
Yes, thank you. So after being directed to their HR business partner, Alex, Darla is asked to submit documentation that, 1, substantiates a medical condition or a disability under the ADA, and 2, supports her request, which is to continue working from home full-time. Alex proceeds to add Darla's request to the employer's spreadsheet and creates a paper file for Darla. Just a side note, come out of the scenario for a second. This is not only a highly manual process, but risky. And we at Disclo are actually seeing more and more companies are actually using this type of a system to keep track of and manage their employees' accommodation requests. But that can, again, possibly be another Disclo Live opportunity to share with you all the Disclo difference. So to continue back with our scenario, after being told that Darla must submit documentation to support her request, she expects to get the next available appointment with her provider. But unfortunately, and like I'm sure we can all imagine and have experienced, especially when trying to schedule time with our specialists, Darla is unable to secure an immediate appointment with her provider, and therefore she's unable to get the required documentation completed until nearly 4 weeks from the time she submitted her request. Naturally, this period of time causes her a lot of stress, especially with the anticipation of not knowing what the outcome will be since she's disclosed, and the outcome of her request in general. As a result, Darla takes time off here and there to care for herself. And then after finally having her documentation to submit, Alex schedules time that week to meet with Darla to discuss her requests in more detail. In doing so, Alex learned more about her experiences when working in the office. Darla expresses that she experiences extreme distress and an exacerbation of symptoms at work due to constant noise and interruptions that trigger her social anxiety, making it very difficult for her to remain focused and productive. Okay, everyone, it's that time again to contribute your thoughts and ideas. So what are some possible next steps or outcomes that you can see in this scenario? Again, please add your comments on LinkedIn to share any ideas you may have.
All right, LinkedIn, let's go. What are some possible outcomes or next steps that the employer could take now that we know things are substantiated? They've got a return to work policy that they want to bring people back in, and the employees requested an accommodation that would be to have an exception to that policy. What are some possible next steps or outcomes that the employer could take?
Let's see.
We'll give it a moment. A little bit of delay between things. All right, Kelsey, is there a private office free of noise or interruption? So Kelsey is saying, hey, maybe there's an alternate accommodation they can offer. Is there something that's free of noise? And then Alex could just approve the work from home request. So Beth, you're right. That is an option, right? The employer could just approve it. There's, Beth and many others weighed in earlier that, hey, is there an essential functions assessment to do to see if that can be done from home? Kelly is saying the org could have provided interim accommodation in good faith while waiting for the paperwork. That's always the best practice. Very good, Kelly. All right, comments coming in fast. So Lisa asked Darla what things would be helpful if she were to come into the office. Perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Lauren, is there a way to provide potential triggers like others have stated, private office, private area, etc.? Go ahead, Taylor.
Yes, Kelly, the noise canceling headphones, frequent breaks for meditation and self-soothing. Those are really great alternatives that could definitely help support Darla in the office for sure.
Exactly.
A compromise with. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Esther says a compromise with hybrid work and/or an option for asynchronous work. That's also another possibility that HR and maybe to kind of explore, with her essential functions, if that would be considered reasonable in this situation.
Perfect. And the LinkedIn user who we can't see from where we are in the software using says a request can conflict with a company policy, and the company policy can be tied to immigration or tax issues. So there may be a reason that they can't, right? So just because there's a policy doesn't mean you should disregard the policy. You need to understand the policy and its intent. And then one more, we'll ask Darla what accommodations she wants, work from home, private office, things like that. Are there some other alternates we can that we could provide? And then Beth last, approve, deny, or some partially approve, etc. So let's see what the employer decides. Go ahead, Taylor. Oh, I'm sorry. This is me talking here. I apologize. So, so ultimately, Darla's employer determines that continuing to work from home full time is not reasonable. Her essential functions as an administrative assistant, she supports directors who are now in the office full time and are holding on-site meetings most of the time. And so they need their assistant to be there for note taking, for action items on site. Being off-site is not reasonable at this point now that her support staff has moved into the office. And so, however, because Alex engaged in that interactive process and took time to better understand Darla's experience and needs, Alex determined and offers alternate accommodations on behalf of the company that can support Darla to be successful in her role and effectively perform her essential functions. Okay. So we're going to, and then we go over some best practices here, as we kind of covered here. Take time to understand. Consider how to balance company need with the employee need. Request only limited supporting medical documentation, and consider approving accommodations without requesting medical documentation when it's reasonable. In this case, it may not have been reasonable, so we're not saying that necessarily here, but when reasonable. So we're going to do another interactive time. And so we're going to type in some answers. And so we want, and some were already mentioned in the discussion. What alternate accommodations could Darla's employer offer Darla? What alternate accommodations could Darla's employer offer? You can, I believe this is programmed to allow unlimited amount of answers. So if you have multiples, you can just do one and then do another. And then we're actually going to vote on the top ones from what's input here. So we're going to take a moment. What alternate accommodations could Darla's employer offer?
Okay, let's see.
Let's see. And if you'll go to, if you hit the QR code or the link.
Yes, Sophia just put it in the
chat.
Let
me go back here. The QR code or the link. All right, we got some answers coming in. Great. Private office, noise canceling headphones, private office again, 1 or 2 days in the office per week. Intermittent telework, modified schedule. Yep, 1 or 2 days in office. Perfect. Alternate schedules. Partial work from home. All right, we've got a lot of great ideas. Let's see if we get another answer. Intermittent leave, part-time office. Great.
Alternative lighting.
Oh, that's really good. Yep, that can definitely help with some conditions. Yep.
I personally love a dark room or dimmed.
Yeah. Yeah. Next time, make a streamlined process for documentation so it doesn't take a whole month. Yes. Disclo will help you with that in a big, big way. Okay, so I'm going to move us forward now. If on your devices or on the browser, you can vote. You get 2 votes. You vote for 2 of these that you think are top. Now, I know a lot of them are the same, so we'll just see what bubbles up to the top anyway. So I'm going to start a timer for 30 seconds to do votes. As we'll cover in another scenario later, and just as best practice while this is going on, employers, it's always best, and it shows a really great good faith effort that if you are not able to, prove an accommodation, that you look at alternates or other things you can support rather than just denying and just leaving the employee out. I always want to understand what it is behind what they're needing. We've got 2 votes. I'm going to give another moment. Always understand what the employee is needing. What are the alternate accommodations you can provide? It does really great things for the employee culture, overall, other employees here. Management understands that you're going to be working with employees. It's really great. So let's see what our votes are. All right. Noise canceling headphones was the most popular, followed by really 2, 4 for private office. So maybe that's the most popular. Lighting, and then intermittent work. And we got a couple votes. I'm just going to make this big. Next time, really don't make your employee go a whole month. But noise canceling headphones and a private office are big ones. Great. So we're going to close that, and we're going to come back to our presentation now. And we're going to have a little Q&A. So we've had some interactive discussion. Want to see if there's any questions from our audience on the things we're discussing. Again, we're not able to discuss specific scenarios or specific, legal matters. But if you have any questions at this point, then let us know. We'll give it just a moment. We've had some discussion here, so there may not be questions, but let's just see, and then we'll move on. All right, let's move forward. I think we're kind of discussing things as we go. Address deadlines for submitting medical documentation. Yes, Erica, very, very good. We agree. Okay, so our second scenario we're going to cover today is around performance improvement plans. This is definitely a sensitive topic for employees and for employers needing to do that. Yes, Lisa, very good. So let's move right into our scenario and set this up. So Thomas is a project manager who has been with the company for 3 years. Over the past 6 months, Thomas's performance has declined significantly, and his manager has had several conversations with him to provide support, resources, and retraining. However, after continuing to see Thomas's performance decline, he has been placed on a formal process improvement plan to address these issues. As part of the PIP, Thomas has been given specific targets he must meet over the next 90 days to keep his employment. Thomas has been struggling in part due to a recently diagnosed new medical condition that he's kept to himself. So Thomas meets with the doctor, lets him know the situation he's faced with, and after having that consultation with his physician, Thomas decides to request some workplace accommodations to help manage his symptoms and improve his performance. After submitting an internal online form, the company's HR business partner receives the request but is uncertain about the legal implications, the documentation standards, and how to accommodate, while Thomas is on a process improvement plan. Because really, to complicate matters, this company has no documented accommodations process. They get a request, and it's kind of, hey, what should we do with this? One off, one at a time. So it's time to get interactive again. If you scan the QR code, if you've just joined us late, scan the QR code, go to menti.com or just click on the link in the comments, and we're going to answer another question. And that is, what are some next steps that the HR business partner could take? They have no formally documented process. The employee is on a process improvement plan, and they've received an accommodation request. What are some next steps that the HR business partner could take?
Mhm.
Just a moment. I think just now it's getting through. All right. Speak to Thomas. Get familiar with the ADA. AskJan.org is a great suggestion. Lots of resources. If you are an HR like office of one at your, or two or whatever at your employer, and you're not sure about the accommodations process or how to do things compliantly, AskJan.org is a great place. Checking out Disclo is a great resource to do. Pause the PIP. Okay, that's a great suggestion. Request documentation, time off. I assume that's giving, I don't know if that's the HR business partner should take time off because they're stressed because their company didn't document the process for them to follow, or if that's that Thomas should take some time off. But either way, ask legal, great. All right. So what else got popped up? Understand essential functions. Yep. Sympathize. Yes. Show sympathy. Ask medical documentation. All right. I'm going to leave this open for more people to suggest some more and come back to the scenario. So let's see what the kind of the employer process here. So after consulting with legal and the HR business partner, the HR business partner directs Thomas to provide medical support. The HRB gives him a form that they downloaded off askjan.org because they didn't have any kind of process or documentation themselves. So due to the high scheduling and their provider's vacation, we fall into the pitfalls when we have a manual process like this. Thomas waits 4 weeks. Thomas returns the forms to his HR business partner, which includes his medical condition and his medication regimen. So now his most sensitive information is in the hands of his employer, which he doesn't love. But he's got to, he's trying to keep his job, so he does what he has to do. HRBP consults with legal again and discusses the request with the manager. And by this time, though, it's already been 90 days it's half of the time frame of his 90 days PIP end date is already gone. So let's discuss again, what are some possible next steps or outcomes for the company? I'm going to come back to, let's check in on our word cloud over here. Looking good. All right. I think a lot of the discussion here in this word cloud are exactly some of the next steps. So I'm going to go ahead and move forward here. So the decision, or go ahead, Taylor, and let's talk about the decision and some best practices.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so the decision that the employer ultimately makes is the employer approves intermittent leave requests as a reasonable accommodation. They deny the reduction of projects as unreasonable and provides an alternate accommodations, and they extend Thomas's PIP end date by 30 days to give additional time with accommodation in place. Some alternate accommodations that they gave to Thomas were additional one-on-ones with his manager and additional documentation in writing as needed. And just some, and then for the extension of the PIP end date, just to allow more time for Thomas to meet performance expectations with the accommodations in place. This shows a strong good faith effort by the employer to be flexible and provide support to for the employee. And just some best practices: have a fully documented accommodation process. Is in an easy location to find and easily access. Employer process doesn't end with an unreasonable or undue hardship decision. It's great to again look at alternatives and really just kind of have that interaction with the employee and just really see how they can be best supported. Alternate accommodations or a reassignment shows good faith efforts, and documentation is key.
Excellent. Thanks, Taylor. So we're going to do a little bit of this is really, I'll say this is the two scenarios that we had planned to cover today. So let me see. Let me close it. Yep. So hopefully this has been helpful and you like this format. If so, I'd love to see like a thumbs up emoji or a Y, like for yes, in the comments. We're not done yet. Remember, especially if you have HRC certifications, stay on. We have more content to discuss around mental health, creating a safe work environment, things like that. And then we're going to have a closing Q&A in here in a moment. And I want to have one more input on topics that you'd like for us to discuss potentially on future interactive webinars. I see the thumbs up, heart emojis, claps going on over on LinkedIn. We can't see those in the where we are, but so if you give them in the comments, thumbs up or Y, that'd be great. So let's talk about a few things. Taylor, let's talk to us about supporting employee mental health in the workplace.
Yes, great. So employers really have an essential role to play in promoting mental health and well-being in the workplace. So just some initiatives that employers can take. Promoting a supportive workplace. So creating a supportive work environment is crucial for promoting mental health. Encouraging teamwork, collaboration, and mutual respect can really help employees feel more engaged and productive and can reduce the risk of burnout and absenteeism. Encouraging open communication about mental health issues can really help reduce the stigma and foster a more of an understanding work environment where employees are encouraged to speak openly about their mental health concerns and providing resources and support to help them address those concerns. Again, so providing mental health resources can really help employees manage stress at work and improve their overall well-being. Promoting self-care. Employers can really encourage employees to prioritize self-care by providing resources and information on self-care practices to maintain good mental health. Providing health insurance. So access to quality health care is really essential for maintaining good mental health. Employers can offer comprehensive health insurance plans that include mental health benefits and behavioral health services. By providing access to mental health support, employers can help employees address mental health concerns and improve their overall well-being again. Addressing workplace stressors. Workplace stressors can have a significant impact on mental health. I'm sure we can all relate to this to some capacity. Employers can take steps to reduce workplace stress by addressing the root cause of stress, such as unrealistic deadlines or work overload. Employers can provide resources and support for employees who may be experiencing stress, such as counseling services or stress reduction programs, like mentioned earlier. And flexible work arrangements when possible. By offering flexible work options to your employers, it can really help maintain a healthy work-life balance, especially now with a lot of hybrid models. Work-life balance is really important. Can really help reduce stress and boost overall job satisfaction, just in general. Yeah. So Josh, over to you.
Yep. Thanks, Taylor. And for those that are HR business partners, employee relations, company leaders, wherever you are, or an employee in your organization, these are things that will go a long way that really don't take a significant investment for most of them. So highly encourage taking some of these things. Another just mention about a Disclo. So some of these scenarios, we discussed the highly manual processes and labor-intensive, time-consuming processes that a lot of employers are still using today, even in our modern workplace. And Disclo really is the modern way to manage accommodations. Again, a nice user interface that isn't, stuck back in the 70s when we're all in like, what is it, 2024 anymore? But a nice user interface, step-by-step process, easy to use, night and day is what we hear from our employer partners that are on Disclo. And again, just don't take our word for it. We have great employer partners that are using Disclo both for the employees and for their job seekers to get accommodation, to request accommodation. Accommodations. Yes, thank you. Interview accommodations. Game changer, easiest tool ever used. These are common comments that we hear. And one more feedback that we'd like to hear from you, if we're going to jump over here, is I see the comments, thumbs up. What are some potential future scenarios that you would like for Disclo to discuss on future interactive webinars? And as we're doing this, Sophia, if you would go ahead and put the link, or rather the activity ID in the comments. So for those of you who have HRCI credits, or rather certifications. As mentioned, yeah, we are pre-approved. This is pre-approved for 3/4 of an hour in the HR General Recertification Credit category. Please take this ID and either copy and paste it somewhere or write it down, because we will need to delete this comment shortly after the webinar to ensure that only those who attended the learning portion of this webinar receive the credit for this event. So there it is, Sophia, put in the comments. Please make sure you copy and paste it or write it down if you have an HRCI certification. Please give us some responses here on some scenarios you would like us to tackle in future interactive webinars.
Yeah.
Yep. And as someone on our team just mentioned, you can check us out at disclo.com/demo. Or in a moment, I'll show a QR code you can scan as well. Just giving a moment if there's any suggestions for future situations you'd like us to tackle on future webinars. I'll leave that open for anyone to add, and we'll come back here and close out. So any final Q&A that anyone has? We have really 10 minutes left if there's questions to answer.